Yeah, and I think that if you can see that someone's doing it tough, I can remember the first time I ever asked someone, have you thought about hurting yourself? And I was very, very scared to ask the question. And what you do find, and I've asked lots of people that question over the years now, people when they're in that headspace are very honest and they are waiting for someone to ask them.
The Biological Farming Roundtable podcast helps farmers explore innovative, low-input, regenerative and profitable farming systems. The Biological Farming Roundtable is sponsored by Nutrisoil, an award-winning biological liquid fertiliser made from a big worm farm. Nutrisoil's purpose is to empower farmers to produce life-enriching food. My name is Nakala Maddock. I work at Nutrisoil. I envisage a future where farmers are rewarded for producing nutrient-rich foods and consumers have this easily available to them. Welcome to the podcast. My name is Nakala Maddock and I'm your host for today. Today's topic is one that is very close to all of our hearts in the farming community, but often not spoken of, and it's mental health. I'm going to share with you all some very concerning statistics before I open up our co-hosts and guests for today. If anyone who is listening today is triggered, we'll be giving you some great resources at the end of the podcast and also on the podcast website. So stay with us. The average suicide rate in Australian farmers is almost 59% higher than the general population. Close to half of Aussie farmers, 45%, have had thoughts of self-harm or suicide. Close to a third, 30%, have actually attempted to harm themselves or take their own lives. Today we're here with Luke Harrington from Regen Farming, who is the actual instigator of this subject. Luke visits many farmers and sees firsthand the gap in help for farmers who are struggling with their mental health. And our guests today are Brad and Katie Collins, who farm near Wagga. Brad and Katie are chaplains with the Riverina Zone Rural Fire Service, assisting people with disaster recovery and pastoral care. Luke, you came to us with such strong conviction that this needs to be discussed. Where's that drive come from?
I suppose that Nakala comes from my own personal experience. But a few years ago, like in 18-19, when the drought was on, my job is to drive up farmers' driveways and talk to people. And one of the things in a drought that my greatest fear was to find one of my friends hanging in the shed because they were under so much pressure. And I can just see at the moment with interest rates where they're going, the suspected El Nino and no rain up north, things like that, we are heading back into a really stressful time for farmers. And having a bit of a look around, there is just not someone for farmers to ring, or there's not enough knowledge out there. So I thought it was really important that we did something. And that's when I had a chat to Brad the other day, and that's where this has all come from. So,
Brad and Katie, tell us about how you got involved with this space.
I think for myself, we have been Rural Fire Service chaplains since 2009. And that's led to dealing with a lot of people, generally speaking, at the hardest time in their lives. So that might be whether it's a fire or an illness or mental health, or just the everyday of life that people come across that it doesn't always happen. So they don't really have the ability to cope with it sometimes. So one of the things that we do is that we come alongside people and just walk that journey out with them. So unfortunately for us, a lot of the time that is a mental health journey that people are walking out, especially in rural communities. So for myself, that's certainly been a passion of mine for a long time.
I think for me too, it was when Brad became the Riverina Zone RFS chaplain. He had certain confidentiality obligations. And the way we work as a married couple and on our farm is we're very much a team. So for him to have something that I wasn't a part of was quite difficult for us. So I became technically the family support officer, or Mrs. Chaplain, as they call me in the RFS. And that really helped, particularly Brad, for his own mental health and his own ability to process the tough things that he was seeing in that role. And I've also got a background in health, so as a qualified occupational therapist. So that was part of my role as an OT as well.
You've given some points that we can kind of discuss today here. The first one is our own story. So who wants to open up that point?
No, I'm happy enough to go first, and I'll probably talk about stuff that I've probably never spoken about before, but I think, and that's why it's just so important. So I probably struggled 20 years with on and off with different things, and I was just lucky enough for God to give me a horse, a crazy horse, which taught me a lot. But I got to the point where I was thinking that the world would be better off without me, my family would be better off without me, that I actually asked my wife on several occasions to up our life insurance. So just up our life insurance just in case something happened. And I think she knew that things weren't quite right and she wouldn't do it. So I had a loaded rifle and I was going to do something. And anyway, I don't know why I didn't, but I didn't. I packed my guns up. I took them out to a mate's place. I said, here, hang on to these for me for the next however long. And then, I went through, as I said, I was lucky enough to have this horse, and which enabled me to work through a process and get to a stage where I think I'm a much stronger person now. But I can just see how easy it is to tip over the edge because I was so close to it. And the crazy thing is, I'm married to the most amazing person on the earth. I've got fantastic kids. I've got a great job. I live in an amazing place. And if that can happen to me, how easy is it going to happen to someone who's struggling? So that's my story. And that's one of the things that drives me with my business is regenerate farming soils, regenerate farming families, regenerate farming communities. And that's what it's all about for me. And that's what my decisions are all about on farm as well.
He's my brother and I've never heard that before. So thank you for sharing. And why didn't you call me?
Oh, well, just a tough Aussie bloke.
Yeah.
But and that's the other thing. I didn't know where to go. There was no information out there at that stage. It's way better now, but it's still not good enough.
I mean, for me, I feel like I'm a person that can crash easily, but can come back again quite quickly. But I've certainly done a number of self-help courses. I've paid a lot of money. I'm always listening to a podcast. I'm always reading a book. I'm into spirituality. I've got a Christian background. I've got good friends. I know if I didn't do all of those things, I would find this life very difficult. And I can find, life is beautiful, but it can be difficult. My father-in-law, Graham, everyone who knows Nutrisol knows that Graham has a mental health condition and that has been for many, many years. And he's struggling to this day. And it's very hard on the family. You look at that person and you think, it must be so hard not to be able to find happiness. Because I can find happiness again at a point. I know it's going to come, but there's that point for some people that they actually can't see it. So that's my experience.
Yeah, and I think for me, I grew up in a pretty dysfunctional family. So there was always love, but there was also high levels of dysfunction. So I had probably quite a complex teenage years. And when we moved to Wagga from Sydney when I was 21, I did get very isolated. I didn't know anyone. I was a city kid that landed on a farm, and I stayed on that farm. But it led me down a road of, I was very withdrawn, very quiet. I think I did start playing rugby with a local team in Wagga, and that was a great outlet because I was able to build some community, but I was also very much self-medicating. Like, I was a very heavy drinker when I was younger. So just self-medicating. It did reach a crisis point for me where similar to Luke, I had a loaded firearm and I was ready to do it. But yeah, I think that something stopped me that day. And looking back, that permanent solution to a temporary problem, I was nearly a statistic. So, and just throughout my life, I've recognised that I reckon it's about every 7 years I sort of go through another cycle where I'll get quite low. And these days I'm much better at picking up when I'm starting to go, and I've got steps and processes in place to help pick me back up. My support people, and community. Community is massive for helping pick me back up. So we're very involved in our local church community. So that's a really important touchstone for me to keep me moving in the right direction.
Yeah. So can I just touch on the community thing really quickly? So this podcast is going to, it's probably not something that everybody wants to listen to. But we know that farmers really struggle, and you're in that, and we're unlucky in that way. But you guys are really lucky because you're in a community. We are a community, like the Nutrisoil Hub guys are a community, RCS is a community, Vic No-Till, and we can all come together and help each other out. So I'd love you to stay to the end of the podcast, because during this podcast there might be just one thing that's said that's going to help you, your mother, your father, your wife, or your child. So please hang about and just listen to what goes on today.
Yeah.
And I think for me, my personal experience has been very much aligned to Brad's being married to somebody who does go through that cycle every however long, learning to recognise the signs and symptoms, and then learning how to take action, when to take action, and like Luke was saying before, where to find help when you know that you need it. My own mental health journey, I think I'm pretty sure that I had a touch of postnatal depression with my first baby, and that was never diagnosed, but I remember that being a really tough time. And I did go and have some counselling for that at a later date. But yeah, again, that was after I'd learnt how to recognise some signs and symptoms. Yeah, so it's a journey, I think, Nakala, across your lifespan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have much experience, Brad and Katie, with people not recognising that others in the family have been affected and they can just get so focused on how they're feeling?
Oh, absolutely. I think we all can look deeply internally, can't we? And we can lose sight of what's out there. So whether that is, Luke was saying that, he had a wonderful wife and kids, and everything was right, but still, that when we look inward, sometimes we get in our own heads so much that we can't actually see the good. So I think that what was your question again? Sorry.
Just being aware that mental health, we might be feeling it ourselves, and we might be finding it really hard to get out of that situation. But to tool ourselves before we get into that situation, because of the absurd effect it can have on everybody.
Yep. So one of the things that I think is really important, and it's something that both Katie and I really both focus on, is that just continual learning. And part of our learning journey has been learning about mental health, and not just mental health, because I suppose when we mention mental health, it tends to have a bit of a negative context. There's shame associated with it, especially if you've had depression or anxiety, or there's so many different variances of mental health. But you can actually have good mental health as well, can't you? Like, you can actually have that positive, I've got through this and I'm going to be okay. So it's about building up your toolbox with the right tools, so that when you are feeling low or anxious, or whatever it is that might be where you're at, or just under pressure or stress, it's about having the tools available and recognizing that, okay, this is where I am. There are some terrific self-assessment tools that you can use that'll give you a guide as to where you're at. Just working out where you're at and being really honest with yourself. is really important, and just having someone that you can trust that will hear you. Yeah.
I think too, listening to those people who are close to you, who have the bravery to maybe say to you, hey, are you okay? Are you feeling all right? I've noticed this behaviour, or I've noticed, you're not sleeping very well, or you're getting snappy with the kids, or, you better be talking to the dog, because if you're talking to me in the sheep yard like that, I'll be leaving.
Sorry.
So being able to take that on board and go, all right, just check in with myself. How am I feeling? Do I need to actually take that step back? If not for my sake, then for my family's sake.
So this probably, I suppose, the one thing I'd say is, and I've unfortunately had to go to several suicide funerals, and all of those funerals, not one of them could be held in a church because there was too many people there. And if you could see, like, in that short time that you're really struggling, and you do take do something drastic like that, and there's 1,000 people turn up to your funeral, that just shows you that there's people out that, like, the community does want to be with you. And if you could just see that and just understand that before you take such a drastic step, I think that's just so important to understand that those people there. And for the 1,000 people that turned up, I'd love you to go and see the people before that happened. What happens. So, and just build community, be a part of it. I think that's so important.
We talk about being in our heads, getting caught up in our heads. How do we deal with that? I mean, I probably have the skill to get out of my head and into my heart, so that whatever happens, and I can let that my life can flow like that. But in a very stressful situation, I don't believe that I could do that. So what are the tools that we need to get out of that head, or to control those thoughts and use them in a positive?
And I think the reality is we're thinking, living, breathing human beings. So, and we spend a lot of time in our own head. And I actually think that women are a little bit more in their own head than blokes. Certainly, using Katie and I as an example, I'm a much simpler creature.
I'll be with you, Katie. Don't worry, I'm listening.
But
Got your back.
when you get in your own head, it's about having the ability to recognise that the self-talk that's going on in your head. So, it could be, if you're in financial stress, look, I'm a failure, the bank's going to do this. You just keep catastrophizing. So a little thing can become a big thing, can become a bigger thing, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. But the reality is actually nothing's changed. And probably communication. So let's just use financial stress. Having a conversation with your bank manager, do you know what? They actually want you to succeed. So they really want to work with you in this. Or whether it's in a relationship setting with your spouse, I think that having the ability to communicate effectively and being honest is absolutely critical to getting out of your own head, and actually verbalizing, because sometimes I can say some things to Katie when she drags me kicking and screaming to get it out of me, and I can recognize that what I'm saying is actually just crap. Like, it's just not real. But in my own head, I've got there. And I think that just having someone that can be honest with you and you can be vulnerable with and very real with is such a powerful thing to get out of your head and get some perspective. Sometimes that might actually mean talking to someone outside of your normal circle, who is not in your situation, but can listen and just reflect back to you what you're actually saying. So, just that getting out of your head and actually speaking out what's in your head and having someone to listen and just help you process what's going on and reflect back what you're saying is really powerful.
That's where I see, this is where I see the shortfall in Australia in agriculture. I would love to see a spot where a farmer is out seeding, he's had a rubbish day, he's in there by himself, his brain's working overtime. He needs another farmer to talk to, like to ring up and have a chat to. And that's where I see the shortfall. I've looked around, there doesn't seem to be a lot of that sort of thing about. And that's where I'd love to see something happen. And we'll talk about that later, Brad. So just so someone can ring up and have that understanding, another farmer talking to a farmer or another ag person talking to an ag person, and understand the challenges that you're going through and be able to talk that through. And because that's maybe all it takes.
I think community and communication are the two most effective tools in dealing with poor mental health and actually getting you to a place of good mental health. I personally have a faith, so I think that, you know, for me, that's my community is there. I also have a relationship with God, so that's something that I turn to regularly as well. But having the ability to pick up the phone or to drop in on a neighbour or whoever it might be is really profound, and being able to say, you know, I've just had a really crap day and just wanted to bounce some ideas off you, if that's okay. I don't think there's anyone here listening that wouldn't be available to have that conversation with someone. And even if it's not right then, you say, look, I'm really just really busy at the moment. Can I have a chat to you tomorrow or next week? Just giving someone space to be able to be real, and you're not trying to solve anything for them. That's not what they're asking you for. But they are asking just someone to listen, and that's such a powerful tool.
Yeah.
I think we also probably just need to note here that there are more medical options as well, in terms of if somebody is in genuine need of medication or counselling services, that should happen as well as the other communication and all the things that we've been talking about. But definitely taking away the stigma of going to the GP and saying, hey, I'm not feeling great. I don't think I'm thinking well at the moment. You know, somebody once explained it to me like, if you have a broken arm, you go to the doctor and you get your broken arm set. If you have a chemical imbalance in your brain, you go to the doctor and you address that chemical imbalance in your brain. There's nothing to be ashamed of. There's no stigma attached to that. It shouldn't be that way. It just is something that needs to be addressed.
And at any given time, 1 in 4 of us is struggling with our mental health. Like it's amazing statistic. So by struggling with your mental health, it actually just means you're human. Like I think at different times in our life, all of us go through a time where we struggle. So having the ability just to recognise that this is actually normal. There's nothing abnormal about it. It's not where we want to live long term, but it's okay to struggle. It's okay to do it tough. And you know, if I go out to a critical incident, one of the first things I'll do is say to the people affected, look, hey, I think you should probably go and see your GP. Let's have a chat to them about your mental health, and we'll get you the help you need. Because I think that just acknowledging, like Katie was saying, there are so many options out there, and sometimes it can be just a few small things to get you to bounce back quick.
You talked about it being something that you can learn to do and you can pick it up more quickly if you have the tools and the education to do that. So where can people go to get those tools, do you think?
Well, there's lots of different places you can do a mental health course. You could do a mental health first aid course, which is amazing. You could look online. You could go to any of the many organisations like Beyond Blue, Lifeline, TAX. There's a lot of information out there if you Google it. Some employers actually mandate that you go and do one of those courses. There's a very, very simple one that the Rural Fire Service has been rolling out in a couple of the districts that we know of, called QPR. and that is question, persuade, refer. And it's a very, very basic, somebody is in mental distress, you learn how to ask those questions and not avoid the elephant in the room. And then you learn how to persuade them to stay well, to actually not do anything drastic, as in a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And then you are able to refer them on to their local health services.
A friend of ours who actually does the course, he said every time he does that 1 hour course, he's always got a couple of people hanging around at the end that want to have a chat. And in the couple of years he's been delivering the program, he's had multiple occasions where people have said, "You saved my life." I know when I first did the first time I did the mental health first aid course, I think I've done it 4 or 5 times now, but I'm a bit slow. But the first time I did it, I was sitting there and they run through a list of criteria and I'm thinking, wow, that's me. That's me. That's me. And just recognizing that, it's okay. Like we're all on our little mental health journeys and information is power. So just having more and more information and being comfortable enough to talk about it. I think we've mentioned shame, but shame's a big thing for the Aussie male. And just recognising signs and triggers. So like Katie mentioned anger, I don't know, maybe you're self-medicating, maybe you're drinking to cope, or using a bit of dope or whatever, or even harder drugs. Generally speaking, they're just trying to mask the signs and symptoms that are there. So if you are finding you're drinking too much or you're self-medicating, maybe it's time to actually go and have a chat to someone, because alcohol is a mood enhancer. So if you're down, you're going to be more down. So there's better ways out there.
Yeah.
Sober in the Country.
Sober in the Country.
In the country.
Yeah, very supportive group. I just hear so many good things about that group, and watch Shan, is it?
Shana.
Yeah, Shana's doing. There is Lifeline, there is Men's Line, there's Beyond Blue. What if I feel like I'm not at that point? What if I think, I don't want to waste people's time, but I'm hearing there's triggers. I know there's something wrong and I know I'm going down. Can I feel comfortable to call these numbers, or is it just for crisis people?
I think you can absolutely feel confident to call those numbers.
Yep.
I think if the choice is between catching something early and being able to, do a little bit of intervention, have a small chat, get some things in place, or end up in the hospital or having a car crash or, drinking to excess, definitely step in early. Even if you're feeling, like it's never too early to jump on the phone and say, hey, can I have a chat? If you've got a good friend, as you said, Lifeline, Sober in the Country, Beyond Blue, TAX, there's a lot of different services out there, and they would much rather hear from you than hear about the consequences later.
Yeah, and I think that's right. You just, it's much easier to bounce back when you're only, we don't want to have these big peaks and troughs. You can actually smooth it out. And that's what we're aiming for, because we all have the ups and downs. It's about, I suppose, just trying to take out the extremes. The extreme ups are all right, but the extreme lows are really hard to bounce out of. And for myself, that's my journey these days. Like I have my ups and downs, but it's about recognising when a down has started. And for me and Katie, generally that just means we've got to have a conversation and we'll change a few things and you bounce straight back out. But it's when you don't want to deal with it and you just let that continue, that slide down, it's a lot harder to bounce back. So getting in early is a really excellent way of minimising it. Absolutely.
I mean, I don't want to get too philosophical here, but I wonder why. Why are we made like this, to have these ups and downs in life? Some days I am on top of the world and I can sing to the rooftops. And then other days you just feel so down and you wonder, why have we been made like this? No one wants to answer that, do they?
I reckon that...
Higher pay grade than me.
I think I actually think there is some wiring things that have gone wrong over the years, and I think that this is just my own personal opinion. Please don't take it as gospel, but there is intergenerational trauma. We've had 150 years and probably more than that of massive world wars and conflicts. We now have a community that is more isolated than ever through the use of mobile phones and technology. Farm sizes have got a lot bigger, so our local communities have shrunk, and we're further apart. We don't do the dances, we don't do all these things we used to do. So I think that we're more and more isolated.
Yeah.
I think social media it's not social at all. It's actually isolation.
Yeah. We've never been more connected, but we've never been more isolated.
Exactly.
I do find technology helps me. The podcasts. I've always got a podcast in my ear. Yeah, I mean that's probably nowhere near as powerful as being in a really tight knit community as we once were previously. But yeah, technology still does have its ups, I think.
And I think that
Positives,
Luke mentioned too before about, I actually think it's got to do with some of the food we're eating too.
Oh yes.
Like I think, Katie
Three
and I.
pieces of cake before you came in. I
Three
was
pieces
really
of-
worried about that.
It was homemade cake.
It was healthy.
It was healthy cake.
But so being isolated, but for us it's healthy soils, healthy plants, healthy animals, healthy people. That's what we try and do on our farm. So, what people are eating, I think, plays a part.
Absolutely.
Like, and with the higher the processed foods, the poorer the outcomes.
And I think there's some really good indicators out there about the gut microbiome and the brain connection.
Oh, yes.
Oh, absolutely.
And when we consume certain foods, our gut microbiome gets knocked around a fair bit, and they're starting to call that the second brain. So, and there's a lot of stuff out there now that sort of says, those two are really connected. So I think that's something that we do have to watch for.
And the overload of chemical in our gut microbiome.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think that,
foods.
I think it's like anything that it's about a balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yes, try and eat as healthy as you can, and do exercise and have community. It's not going to be one thing in isolation. It's actually a number of things that contribute to making us well. And even when you do all those things, you're still going to have your little peaks and troughs.
You're just talking about a regenerative farming system, Brad. That's exactly what we're basically regeneratively farming ourselves with all of these tools.
Well, why not?
Yeah.
It makes us more resilient, doesn't it? Because resilience is one of those words that's become really popular lately, but really that's what it's about. It's about building capacity within ourselves, within our bodies and our minds and, our communities to be able to weather the extremes, isn't it? We all have extremes, whether that's grief. Someone dies suddenly, and you've got to process that grief, and you've got to work through that grief. That's hard. That's if we don't love, we don't grieve. So whenever we're grieving, it's because we love. And I think that having the ability to recognise and process, and whether it's grief can be like a really big trigger for people, and not resolving grief and not processing grief can lead to some really significant consequences for people. So that's just one thing. Identity is huge. How many farmers do we know that leave the farm and then are dead within 6 or 12 months?
Yeah.
Fit, active people who lose their identity. Or even worse, well, not even worse, but if someone was to lose their farm for whatever reason, and they've always been a farmer, so that loss of identity for someone is critical. So try to have your identity in something that's not just job related is really actually quite powerful. One of the first questions we ask someone when we meet them, what do you do? Identity is we're so wrapped up in what we do, but I actually think it's a really poor way of doing it. We need to be more focused on who we are rather than what we do. What we do is important, but it's who we are, I think, that really is critical. And identity is one of those things that we don't want to be too wrapped up in our own identity.
So what are some of those things? So if you're a farmer and you have no hobbies, you have no other interest, and you find it hard to be interested in anything, you've gone and tried things, where do they go from there? Because I've seen it. All they want to do is work.
Yep.
And that can crash.
But
So
I don't think can crash. It does crash.
Yeah.
It's a one-way ticket. And once again, it gets back to balance. If you are only working and only farming, I see it too. Like farmers who work so hard. Like their work ethic's amazing, but they don't see their wife, their kids, their marriages break down. It actually doesn't fix anything, certainly. So I think it gets back to balance. It really does. There's got to be balance. We can't work all the time, and we can't just be farmers. We need to be, wives, husbands. I think 49% of the rural workforce is female. So this is not just a bloke thing. It's a thing for the ladies as well. Our identity can't be just rooted in one thing. So for me, my identity, I try to keep it in Christ. So because I'm a chaplain, but I'm also a father. I'm also a husband. I'm also, a chaplain. I'm also, I'm so many different things. But I try really hard to keep my main thing the main thing, and the other stuff is just sort of there. And look, if I wasn't farming tomorrow, it probably wouldn't affect me too much. Even though it's what I've been doing mostly for the last 30 years, it's not who I am. I love it, I enjoy it, I'm passionate about it. But if I had to change for whatever reason, if I was injured or Katie got sick or whatever, I'm okay with that because it's not who I am.
In terms of how can people find other things to be interested in, I think that's a very personal decision that each individual has to look at for themselves, and it may be sport, it may be art, it may be music, it may be a lot of different things.
Community groups like CWA or,
Men's Shed.
Men's Shed, there's so motorcycles. I love motorcycles.
Volunteer at Riding for Disabled.
Oh, that's right.
Or even just going and visiting the grandkids more.
Totally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just going, well, I can serve here by really nourishing these children.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Katie and we can get isolated, even though we know what we should be doing, we can still get quite isolated on the farm. And we're not that far out of Wagga. We're only half an hour out of Wagga, but we can still get isolated. So we're quite deliberate about having people over. So just saying, okay, well, once a month, let's have someone over, even if it's someone you don't know super well. Just being deliberate in your actions to build relationships is critical. So, it might be family, it might be friends, it might be someone new who's moved to town, and that they don't know anyone either.
Yeah.
Look, they may not be who you'd normally hang out with, but they're some of the coolest relationships you can have because they're so different to you, and you can have a really unique relationship.
Be curious, be interested.
Totally. Yeah. Some of my good friends are the weirdest people.
I'm sure you're not the weird one.
Well, look, I may be the weird one, and that's okay. I'm okay with being weird. But I think just being deliberate. So for us, like I said, that's one thing we do. Well, once a month, we really want to ensure that we're having someone over for a meal.
It's self-directed. That was one of your points.
Totally.
Being deliberate, being self-directed. And I'll just speak about our mum for a second. She won't mind. When our dad passed away, Mum has been a nurse for a number of years, and she's such a strong woman. And she was in huge grief, but she made sure she went out of the house every day. She got involved in sports. She got involved in volunteer work. Otherwise, she knows she would not have survived.
Yeah, I go to visit her 3 times a week and she's never there.
Yeah. So that self-directed is something that we all need to take responsibility for.
Yeah, and Brad's got a great idea, and he's spoken about it several times. A day every couple of months, go and help your neighbour.
Yes.
And then a couple of months later, it might be fencing or drenching or whatever it might be, and then a couple of months later, they can come over and help you out with something, and just to have someone there, because we are isolated most of the time on a farm.
We've got a neighbour of ours, and I I love going over to his place. I always learn something. It might only be for an hour or two, and we'll just have a cuppa and a catch up, where I pick his brains because he's much smarter than me. But I think being deliberate, we can get really isolated on the farm, and having a neighbour who maybe we don't know well, but spending, I don't know, a couple of hours or a half a day. I love getting on someone else's farm and sticky beaking, and just having a look around. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Even if it's, there's an old car there. What are you doing with that? Like, I can collect old cars that don't work. But just being deliberate about building community, because I've got pretty good relationships with our neighbours, and I did have a farm accident there in 2015 where I was in a pretty bad way, and I was able to ring one of my neighbours who knew where I was because he'd been on my farm. He was there in 10 minutes and was able to do first aid for me. So just even simple things like that, it's important. So it's such a great way just to build some relationship, is hang out with your neighbour. It doesn't need to be much, but it's just build community again.
Thinking of the regen community, there's RCS, Resource Consulting Services. I think of Holistic Management, Brian Wahlberg, that community, Vic No-Till, a number of different communities where I see people get so much from. And then it might be just a course, but there's ongoing things from it. And like you mentioned, the Nutrisoil Hub, we get people together. They're the types of communities that are available in agriculture, as well as if you're a Christian, you've got your church community. What other communities are around that you could get involved in?
Oh, there's heaps, Nakala. The list is a mile long.
Yeah.
I mean, for us, we're involved in the RCS community. We're involved in the Nutrisoil Hub. We're involved in KLR Mastermind.
Yeah.
We're involved in holistic management.
Yeah.
We're involved in non-farming groups as well, and that just gives us a bit of a balance, like Brad was saying.
Like to ride motorcycles. So I'm in a motorcycle group. I obviously am not in a sporting group, but aspirationally,
Darts.
Cool. There are so many community groups out there, and look, in our more remote communities, it generally is around the footy club or the netball club, and I think giving your time to someone else, whether that's in a volunteer capacity at a footy club or whatever it might be, it is your time, but you actually get so much more back from that. Because I know Katie and I have done a lot of volunteer work with the RFS over the last, through droughts and fires and all that sort of thing, and we often get told, "Oh, it's amazing what you guys do," and it's like, actually, we actually get so much more from service, and that's probably how we're wired. But we get so much from helping people. And I think most people do. You get that warm and fuzzy feeling. And sometimes the simplest things can be the most profound things. And that can be just as simple as making someone a cup of tea and not speaking to them. Just sit with them. Just being in their space and just being there. And sometimes it might mean, I don't know, old Mrs. Smith down the road needs her gardens done because she can't do it anymore. Just showing up with your lawnmower or whatever it is, but just giving of your time, it gives purpose to your life. And a lot of people do lack purpose. And if you just work and work and work, it's actually not purpose. It's quite debilitating. So look for what your purpose is, and find your tribe. We're a tribal people, and we were talking about the different groups, but just working out what your tribe is. It could be the footy club, it could be whatever. The RFS is one we're obviously involved in, but the RFS is a terrific community. They call themselves a family because of that, the nature of the organisation. But there are so many different organisations out there to be involved with.
And they're all screaming out for people at the moment. I run our local Riding for Disabled. We really struggle to get volunteers. But the volunteers we have they get more out of it than the riders do.
Totally.
And half the riders we can't talk to because they don't talk back. But they do things like Smile. Like, we've got a girl that 2-3 years ago couldn't sit up. She can now sit up for 40 minutes. And to be able to change someone's life like that is amazing. Like now they can take a shirt on and off without it dragging her off on the bed. Like she can actually sit up to do that. So to be able to get involved in something like that, and it will give you more than you'll ever give it, for sure.
Totally. Yeah.
It's interesting when you put it like that, Luke. To me, that screams you're adding value to somebody else's life.
Yeah.
And I think that essentially is the most precious thing that you can do in this life is add value to people, to individuals.
Yeah.
And in you doing that takes the focus off what's going on in here. Like we've spoken about getting out of our own heads.
Yeah.
So getting the focus off what's going on in our own heads and thinking, how can I add value to somebody else's life? And that in turn adds so much value into your life. It's such a precious thing.
So great to have someone so wise on our podcast.
It's like just that one statement. Like I got tingles when you said that, and it's so simple, but we're wired to help people.
We are so
we are.
Not
wide.
in the expectation that we're going to get something back, but inevitably we do. But just that joy of helping someone.
It's such a powerful thing. And we can get in our own heads and think how tough it is. I've got this going, I've got this going on. I tell you what, I'm a blessed man. I know that I'm a blessed man, and I still get in my own head sometimes.
The other side of that equation too is, which is something I learned when I had, little children, is the ability to bless someone else by allowing them to help you.
Oh, yes.
And that is a real skill.
Yep.
Because we are so taught, and it's ingrained in us, that we need to be independent. But we don't. We don't need to be independent all the time.
Yeah.
And it is a blessing for us to allow others to help us, but it blesses them because they're adding value to our life. And in the arena of mental wellness, that is such a beautiful exchange, and it's building each other up in a community and within a family.
And that building each other up, that is so important, because it's something that our society seems to be lacking at the moment. We seem to be trying to drive everybody down
and
divide, whereas we want to be bringing everybody up together, and being getting community back into society.
What makes someone better than someone else? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Zach Bush talks about othering. We're comparing ourselves to other people. We are all miracles. We're all amazing.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If someone is down, you see the signs, but they deny it. Where to from there? What are the steps you take when you see someone's not coping, but they are denying it?
I think for me, if I can see that I think someone's struggling, one of the things that I try to do is I just keep following them up. So, it is just that you just keep showing up. Just keep showing up. And it might be a phone call once a week for 2 minutes. Hey, how you going? I'm in your area or whatever it might be. How's your week been? How much rain did you get? We love to talk about weather. I don't know if you can hear the rain on the roof at the moment. But just keep checking in, and people will be more prepared to be vulnerable through relationship. So the better the relationship is, generally speaking, the better the interaction will be. And sometimes it is about being vulnerable. Like I'm sure you noticed at the start of this podcast, we spoke about our own journeys. And that's us being vulnerable to say, hey, it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to struggle, and it's okay to be there now, but it's not where you have to stay. And it's about recognising that. Yeah, but certainly if you can recognise that someone is down, just keep on showing up. That's the best thing you can do.
And I think you being in your well state and contacting them, they might not actually look like they're receiving it with gratitude initially. It might take 3 or 4 more phone calls. But when they come out of that downtime, they're going to say, "You called me. You kept calling me. Thank
Exactly.
you.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you."
you just
it does
don't
mean
know.
something you just might not know at the
Yeah.
time.
The other thing that I would do in that situation is I would make sure that I had some skills that I could call
Yes.
on. So if I noticed that, my neighbour Joe, whoever Joe may be, was pretty down and I hadn't seen him out on the tractor for a few weeks, I'd possibly, if I was worried, I would talk to somebody I knew who had some skills in that mental health space, and I would say, what is it that I can do?
Yeah.
What is it that I can do in this situation? Is it the phone call? Is it I'll just drop round? Depending on what your personal skills are, do you drop round with a cake?
Yeah.
Do you drop round with a bag of seed or, a plant or something?
20 litres of Nutrisoil.
Yeah.
But
You
what
should
is
have
it?
someone hand
Yeah.
just for this reason.
It's your mental
Uh,
health
Yeah.
for your soil.
And if
Or
you see,
regenerating soils.
if you do see someone who's struggling, be brave enough to
It's
to
the
tap-
bravery for us, isn't
because
it?
that's really hard to us
is.
to get involved. We don't want to get involved in stuff, but sometimes you just have to.
Yeah, and I think that if you can see that someone's doing it tough, I can remember the first time I ever asked someone, "Have you thought about hurting yourself?" And I was very, very scared to ask the question. And what you do find, and I've asked lots of people that question over the years now, people when they're in that headspace are very honest, and they are waiting for someone to ask them.
Yeah.
So be brave to say, "Hey, I can see you're low. Have you thought about hurting yourself?" Because if you have, I want you to know that there's support there and I'm here. And sometimes people just need permission to say, "Yeah, I've actually been really down." And it's okay to ask that question. And sometimes it's important that you ask that question. But being open enough to say, "Yeah, I can see that you're struggling. Do you know what? And if you get it wrong, you get it wrong. It doesn't matter." Because in the scheme of things, at least you're checking in with them. Even if they say, "Oh, no, I'm just having a bad day," or whatever it is, or, "I've got this going on, but I'm okay." That's fine, but you checked in. And if you think you need to ask the question again, you've already done it once, so it's okay. Just be brave. It's okay.
And just leaving those resources on the kitchen table, because they actually have to be self-directed themselves to call. We can't make those phone calls for them, can we? No.
Oh, look, sometimes if I come across someone who may be struggling with where they're at in their headspace, I will sit with them and I will dial the number. "Would you like me to do this?" I ask their permission.
Okay.
"Yes, Brad." "Okay, well, let's do it together." So sometimes it's okay to do that and just escalate them, help them to reach out for help, because sometimes people get paralysed and won't move. And sometimes they're so afraid of what they might get told, they won't reach out for help. So you do need to be a little bit brave sometimes.
Yep. And even without the permission, sometimes you have to do it. Like I had a friend of mine, he was on the phone to me and he was in Melbourne and I'm in Denny. There wasn't much I could do. So I rang Lifeline and they're all asking me, "How do you feel about it?" And I'm going, "Well, I don't care how I feel about it. I've got an issue going on here." So I ended up ringing the Moonee Ponds police station.
Because he thought he was going to self-harm.
Yeah. So they went round and got him and he got put away for 6 months until he was well. But like you wouldn't have given me permission to do that.
Yeah.
But he's still alive today because of that.
Yeah, and sometimes it might mean that person doesn't speak to you again.
Yeah.
And that's okay because they're alive.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to escalate.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yes.
But I think getting back to sort of what we're talking about today, like, yes, mental health is a big thing. But this is, we're preempting, I think, in some ways, what we can see coming. So if it does get dry, Australia's a land of extremes, isn't it? So we've had 3 wet years. Odds are we've got a dry one on the way, and they're talking about it. So it's about building these things into our lives now, just to make sure that when it does start to toughen up, that we've got our community there. We've got the things in place to help us cope. and that might mean you have the chat with the bank. It might mean you make sure that your relationships with your spouse are good, or your kids are good, or you're in the footy club, or it might mean whatever it might mean for you. It's about building those things into your life now, before you reach a crisis point.
Yeah. And once again, the regenerative farming side of it, like in a good year, you build your natural capital. So when the tough ones come along, you're more
Stay
resilient. You've got that chance of getting through so much easier. So it's the same thing.
Absolutely.
So,
It's not a waste of time. We're all going to deal with grief. We all die.
Yep.
We all have people that die around us.
Mhm.
So we all, need to give ourselves these resources or tool ourselves up. Also for kids, there's some really good lines for kids. If there's stress at home and you think that you're coping with it, but you recognise that it might be affecting the family, there's kids lines. There's also Headspace for 12 to 25-year-olds. Again, just telling them the service is there and they can use it if they want.
If you've
Put that fridge magnet on the fridge.
Yeah.
Yep.
Make
Just
sure you don't shut
it
it
available.
down. If
Yep.
they need to talk, you might not know it.
Tell them it's okay. It's okay if you need to ring that number, go for it.
And when you're dealing with someone that's quite unwell, particularly with their mental health, it's not just them. It's the whole family that is actually going on that mental health journey. So putting supports in place for kids, for the spouse, for other people that might be associated with you if it's you, that's just wise, isn't it? And building that capacity straight up. And I think too, like this conversation that we're having today, I suppose we're talking about it from our own points of view, but it really might not be about you at all. It might be someone that you love or you care for. So keep your eyes open. Just keep checking in. That's community, isn't it? That's relationship. It's just keep checking in. How are you going? I'm all right. Oh, really? I don't reckon you are. Just come on. Just be honest. So as an Australian male, I've said I'm fine, but probably haven't been. So sometimes you might have to ask the same question 2 or 3 times in a conversation before you get an honest response. But it's okay to keep asking.
And anyone could be referred to a psychologist. You just need to go to your GP first. There's 6 sessions that you actually get funded. And if you talk to your GP, rural and remote people actually have some more additional telehealth services.
Which is a great service.
Is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very
Wonderful.
good.
And also, I know Beyond Blue's got a self-diagnostic tool. It's a quiz that you can take, and it's going to give you a guide. So it's not set in concrete, but it's a really simple 5-minute quiz that you can just tick a box, and it's going to give you a rough idea of where you're at. And I think it's actually quite wise. If you feel like you might be anxious or depressed or whatever it might be, just to get a guide. And sometimes you might be actually surprised with where you might be at. You might be actually doing it tougher than you realise, but you've just got used to it. So being a little bit brave, and you can even do it on the sly and just log on and do the test. But there are plenty of resources there. So let me encourage you to do that.
I'd love to encourage every agro, every stockie, every bank manager, everybody go and do the mental health first aid course.
Absolutely.
And that would be an amazing way that you could help your neighbour, your wife, your children, whatever, your community, because it'll just give you that knowledge, and hopefully the knowledge will give you the bravery to do what you need to do when you need to do it, because there will be a time when you'll need that knowledge. So
and we'll have that listed on the podcast website as well. I think in summary, and we could all have a piece of summary if we like, but just the realisation that if you're involved in regenerative farming and all of these pieces of the puzzle have to be put together in balance, we have to regenerate ourselves as well, because if we're not regenerating ourselves, we cannot regenerate our farm well. We can't regenerate our families and our communities. Any closing statements from our wise chaplains?
Just from me, thanks for having us, and be brave and find a way to add value to someone else's life today.
And I think for me, there's no shame in asking for help. So if you've been brought up with that mindset, you're wrong. It's okay to do it tough, and it's okay to ask for help. And really, if you don't ask for help when you need it, that's the shame. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Brad and Katie, and thank you, Luke, for pulling us all together today.
No worries. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thanks everyone.
Please follow the Biological Farming Roundtable podcast. Share it with your friends and networks. I'm Nakala Maddock and I work at Nutrisoil, a liquid biological fertiliser made from a big worm farm whose purpose is to empower farmers to produce life-enriching food.